Hi, it's John Kelly. In this module, we are going to discuss emphasis of matter and other matter paragraphs. And as always, we want to be efficient and effective, follow professional standards, and document what we have done properly. Now, the first thing, I used to call these emphasis of a matter problem because I kind of think that's proper grammar, but notwithstanding that, they're pretty clearly called emphasis of matter problems, so get used to calling them that way and don't call them anything else. Now, emphasis of matter and other matter paragraphs are to draw users' attentions to important matters in the auditor's judgment. And there are two kinds: matters that are appropriately presented or disclosed in the financial statements, and those are emphasis of matter paragraphs, or otherwise relevant but not in the financial statements, and those are other matter paragraphs. So the only difference between an emphasis of matter and an other matter paragraph is in the first emphasis of matter, it's already appropriately mentioned in the financial statements, but an other matter is something that's relevant but not needed to be in the financial statements. Now, the format of an emphasis of matter paragraph is in 706(7), and it is to be immediately after the opinion paragraph. It is to have the heading emphasis of matter or any other heading you'd like, so that paragraph really doesn't, or requirement really doesn't mean anything. It is to refer to where the matter is noted in the financial statements, and is to indicate that our opinion is not modified in respect of the matter. So that sentence or that sentiment has to be in the note someplace. And modified is a better word than qualified. The examples you will find use both, but any type of change in opinion, either qualified, adverse, or denial, is referred to as a modified opinion. So modified is probably a more general word, more correct word than qualified, but you'll see the examples use both, so perhaps it doesn't matter. Now, another matter, the format for that paragraph, and that is something that is not in the financial statements, is in his 706(8). And it is to be immediately after the opinion paragraph and any emphasis of matter paragraph or anywhere else you'd like to put it. And it's to be called an other matter or anything else you'd like to call it. So actually it really doesn't matter, that paragraph, because you can put it anywhere you like if you think it's better, and you can call it anything you want if you think that's better. Now, professional standards observe that widespread use of these things diminishes their effectiveness, but on the other hand, this serves as a disclaimer and a protection for the auditor, and if you're supposed to have one and you don't, you're certainly in trouble. So it's very dangerous to miss, and therefore it's probably prudent for the auditor to err on the side of too many of these. Now, Section 706 lists some of the places where professional standards require either emphasis of matter or other matter paragraphs. There are 7 and 6 respectively, though if you study carefully you will find at least 14 and 15 respectively of these required in professional standards, and maybe there are more. I gave up looking after a while. So again, too many examples: reporting implications of new auditing standards, 252 pages. There's the URL, and there are examples of both other matter and emphasis of matter paragraphs in that document. So if you're trying to find them, there's a place that you may find some. Here I list the rather too many requirements for an emphasis of matter paragraph, and I provide the handbook reference, and if there is an example that I found in professional standards, I've pointed you to it. Where it says issue 12, that's the document I just referred to. So that has a number of these. So here are some of the reasons for an emphasis of matter paragraph. There may be uncertainty about a future income, a future outcome rather, that's described in the financial statements, and a accounting estimate that has uncertainty around it, and that's described. We might refer to that. Early application of GAAP with a pervasive impact, so we've adopted an IFRS that's new, that doesn't have to be adopted for 3 or 4 years, but the client has gone ahead and done it. It has a very pervasive impact. That's described, of course, in the notes to the financial statements, but the auditor might choose to add an emphasis of matter paragraph to double alert readers to that. A major catastrophe. Law provides an unacceptable framework, so you've got to go ahead and audit it anyway, but the framework is, in your opinion, unacceptable. You have a subsequent event that you have modified the financial statements for, and you only extended your audit procedures to the subsequent event. You might have an emphasis of matter paragraph, and there's an example. If you've amended financial statements and there's a reason described in the notes, the auditor might emphasize that in an emphasis of matter paragraph. If there's a going concern note, this is the most common, and if there is a going concern note, you have to have an emphasis of matter paragraph. It's just mandatory, and there's an example. If there's an unrecognized but uncertain accounting estimate, that's kind of like number 1. So that's kind of repeated, and if that's described in the financial statements, you might have an emphasis of matter paragraph. Going concern, if you have many going concern items, you will either have an emphasis of matter paragraph or you might disclaim instead. Going concern, if we've decided that it's appropriate to use the liquidation or some alternative basis of accounting, and we've gone ahead and done that, or rather the client has, emphasis of matter paragraph maybe. If we have 2 accounting frameworks that we're using and we've referenced that, we might talk about that. Comparatives not properly restated, opinion different on the prior period, or if we're only reporting on a single statement, or we're only reporting on the income statement, or a single element, we might have an emphasis of matter paragraph to alert the reader to that fact. So 14 different possible emphasis of matter paragraphs and maybe more. Other matter paragraphs. We really would like to resign. Management has imposed a very significant scope limitation, but we can't because we have an obligation to report to the shareholders. We might want to have a paragraph where we said, we really want to resign, but we can't. We're having to report one last time, probably a disclaimer of opinion, and we just want to explain that we otherwise would have quit. If we're reporting on both general and special purpose financial statements, if there's a restriction on use, we are doing an audit only for a banker, and we want to say this audit opinion is only for the use of a banker. So that's a relatively, these are uncommon, but that would be, in the uncommon ones, that would be common, if you get what I mean. Going concern, either an emphasis of matter paragraph or another matter paragraph or a disclaimer. The next 3, there is a prior auditor who is another auditor. We would have another matter paragraph saying the comparative financial statements were audited by another auditor. Or if the comparative financial statements were unaudited, we might want to say that, or we would say that in another matter paragraph. So those 2 are more common. If we had a modified opinion last year and we've been able to fix that this year, we might want to say, you know, last year the opinion was modified, but something happened this year and we now realize subsequent events have proved that we didn't need the modification. Material inconsistency and other information. This would be unusual, but there's an annual report being issued or some kind of thing like that, and we have read it and there is inconsistencies between that and what we know about from doing the audit, and the client won't fix it. We might put that in an other matter paragraph. Again, withdrawal not possible. That's like the EOM paragraph we talked about. Prior auditor won't fix errors. And then finally 2 Canadian specific ones. So 15 different other matter paragraphs. Here's an example from 706. And this is an emphasis of matter, uncertainty related to an outcome of a lawsuit. So that's in note whatever it is. And then we have the sentence that says, our opinion is not qualified in respect of this matter, instead of is not modified. And maybe we say qualified because we decided that if it was a problem, we would have only a qualified opinion, not a adverse opinion, for instance, but qualified or modified. Here's an emphasis of matter paragraph from that big long document. This time they don't call it emphasis of matter, they call it subsequent event. And they say, without modifying our opinion, we draw attention that talks about to this note that talks about this problem. So there's yet another way of doing it. Another other matter paragraph, and here they say other matter or other appropriate heading, and they describe the problem and talk about an auditor who expressed an unmodified opinion. This is talking about somebody else did the audit last year. So use great care when you're doing this. Don't miss. Make sure you word it correctly. So research the issue. That CICA document is a useful one. And of course have proper documentation of what you're doing and why you're making this special reference in the audit report. Now there are really no big changes as a result of 706R, other than, of course, changes consistent with the new format of the audit report. So key audit matters are excluded from emphasis of matter and other matters. The going concern emphasis of matter paragraph is done differently, similar but different. And of course, the whole format of the report and the way things are done and worded are different. So the fundamental underlying philosophy is not much different, but the wording of the report is a lot different, so you need to be careful. So, thanks for listening.